Hey everyone, MD here with a first of its kind book review of Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. Initially, I found out about this book from a YouTuber called Morpho. They did a video on it first, which is probably going to be infinitely better than this one, but I mean, shit, you already clicked on this one, don't go watching theirs. I mean, you, they have a good channel, but I mean, you're already on this video, you may as well stick around until the end. Uh, it's the first of three stories in an anthology. It's about 154 pages long. This one story, not the whole anthology. It's a relatively short read. I could get it done in like a afternoon. I don't know. It took me about a couple months to read it on and off. It starts off with a note saying that Agnes Petrella, one of the main characters in this story, has died, and there's an investigation revolving Zoe Quinn, the other main character's involvement in her death. It begins with Agnes listing an apple peeler for sale. Her grandmother had really wanted an apple peeler to make apple pie, but her husband refused. So she stuck a sewing needle into one of his apples to convince him, as well as this Charles Ives, a famous composer, had allegedly owned it. Zoe Cross texts her, emails her back, sorry, because this takes place in 2000, saying her grandfather would appreciate it, and being a big fan of Charles Ives. Agnes responds by saying that she believes her grandfather would be a great new owner, and Zoe asks why Agnes would sell this apple peeler if it means so much to her, and she says it was one of the last things her mom gave her before cutting her off after she came out as gay. As well as this, it would help with her rent. Zoe responds to Agnes by asking for her bank account number so she could help her out with her next month's rent, as well as asking for her instant messaging username. Zoe tells her not to sell the apple peeler as well. They enter the chat room and Zoe asks, "What have you done to deserve your eyes?" Something her father used to say to her, emphasizing something along the lines of not knowing what you have until it's gone. Zoe orders Agnes to buy a bright red dress and lipstick to wear to work. Agnes resists at first, saying that she'll get fired, but eventually she goes in and does it. She gets the dress during her lunch break, wears it back to work, and she gets asked to leave early. They talk again in the chat. They get freaky as hell. These bitches gay, good for them. Zoe says that she wants someone to take care of, and as well as having absolute control over. Agnes agrees to this, and Zoe drafts a contract, which I will now read in its entirety. Y'all ready for some freaky shit? Contract agreement between Zoe Cross and Agnes Petrella. Zoe Cross, hereinafter referred to as sponsor, hereby binds this contract with Agnes Petrella, hereinafter referred to as Drudge. In this contract of sponsorship, said contract refers to total dominance and control of owner in this relationship with said drudge, in regard to the stipulations contained herein. It is noted that the official contract was reached on the day of June 7, 2000. This contract is to be a written declaration of this fact. This contract is in no way legally binding in a court of law, but is meant as an aid to better understand the needs, duties, and responsibilities of the sponsor and the drudge. Both the sponsor and the drudge agree on the details of this relationship, with both parties accepting and understanding the consequences of such. Purpose. The purpose of this instrument is to state full mutual consent of the above mentioned in regard to this relationship, explain the responsibilities and duties of both the sponsor and the drudge, explain the use of punishment, define all set rules and possible future rules. This contract is written to make clear the expectations of sponsor and the consequences for failure to live up to this agreement. The said parties, for the consideration hereinafter mentioned, hereby agree to the following. The drudge agrees to obey to the best of her ability and to devote herself entirely to the pleasures and desires of her sponsor. The drudge also renounces all rights to her own pleasure, comfort, or gratification except insofar as permitted by the sponsor. The drudge agrees to hand over the password and all subsequent details of her bank account information to the sponsor so that the sponsor is in full control of her accounts. The drudge agrees to never question the sponsor with regard to finances and fully understands that the sponsor's full possession of her account is for her physical and mental well-being. The drudge will sleep in the nude with the air conditioning on full blast even in winter months. This is intended to show servitude to the sponsor and is means by which the drudge can make a small sacrifice in order to exhibit an unparalleled level of loyalty. The drudge will only consume food at the following times: 10 a.m., 1 p.m., and 6 p.m. The strict regimen of feeding will not only improve digestion, but will keep the drudge balanced and in good faith with the sponsor. The drudge will confer with the sponsor before making any large purchases, as the sponsor holds the account information for the drudge. The sponsor accepts full responsibility for the drudge. This includes, but is not limited to, the drudge's survival,
Health, physical well-being, and mental well-being. The Drudge accepts full responsibility for informing the sponsor of any real or perceived dangers or safety concerns, but also agrees that the sponsor's decision will be final regarding those issues. The Drudge agrees and understands that any infractions of this contract or any act that the drug...
Zoe asks her to leave her panties in a conspicuous place in the bathroom where they'll easily be seen. A coworker finds them immediately. Agnes gets fired, but she doesn't feel bad about it because the world is hostile, but she is safe with Zoe. Agnes is late for another instant messaging session and she has to hold her breath for a minute. She wants to meet Zoe in person, but Zoe says that they're not ready yet. Agnes says that she wants to have a baby, but they're lesbians, so I don't think that's entirely possible. Zoe emails her the next day, saying that she wants her to find a salamander, keep it with her all day, and then beat it to death with a large rock. Agnes resists, saying that she couldn't hurt a living thing. Zoe tells her, a drudge obeys, no matter what. Agnes agrees and does as she is told. Later on, she executes the salamander. She makes a small grave for it and buries it. She says she would never have thought that she would do something so monstrous and cruel. She fears the person she will become if she keeps messaging her, like what other things she would do to make her happy. She says if they stay together, they'll only hurt each other, bringing up a story about a rabbit that she saw at the zoo. A Sumatran, I believe that's how you say, a short-haired rabbit was pregnant, and Agnes kept an eye on it. The rabbit had 2 children, and it ate both of them. Zookeeper says it was for the best because both of the rabbit children were sick, so they're kind of like programmed to do that, so predators don't sense them and like eat their kids anyway. Agnes petitions to void her contract with Zoe, her drudge contract, and she agrees. 2 months pass before they email again. Agnes apologizes for saying that they would be better off separated. Goes off on a long tangent about a teenager who was convicted of a really long, graphic, gross tangent of a teenager who was convicted of crucifying a baby. She says that neither Agnes nor Zoe are monsters like a teenager who crucifies a baby, and that they deserve second chances. Zoe accepts the apology and gets back with her, along with a reinstatement of her contract. The instant message again. Agnes tells a story of her grandma putting her in a broom closet with an egg. If it broke at all, then she had to eat it, including, the yolk, the shell, all of that, and that her grandmother was only doing it because there are worse people in the world who would do worse things to her. Zoe recounts a dream where Agnes was severely burned and deformed, hooked up to all sorts of life support machines. It reminds me of the Throbbing Gristle song "Hamburger Lady." Probably one of the most fucked up songs I've ever listened to. One of the hardest to listen songs I've ever had to listen to. It's about a woman who's severely burned and on life support. It really reminds me of this song. My cat's on my lap. Sorry if you hear that now. Zoe seems to enjoy seeing her in pain before unplugging her life support and then taking her place, with all the burns and stuff. And then she says the dream was a message to never hurt Agnes. Agnes reiterates that she wants a baby, and then this, if you couldn't tell, this is the part where it starts to get really gross. They devise a solution. Agnes will contract a parasite and carry it as a child, likening babies to parasites, which, I guess, technically, if you want to be pedantic about it, yes, a baby is sort of like a parasite. It does, feed off of you and stuff, but I find that to be an incredibly pessimistic way to view, a baby. Zoe suggests a tapeworm specifically, and Agnes agrees to do it. Zoe tells her to get a pound of raw pork, leave it outside for 2 days, and then eat it. Agnes does so, remarking that it tastes like raw rubber and that she threw up once while eating it, but she still does eat the whole maggoty pound of raw pork. Agnes does get really sick from this. Shocker, she goes to the hospital, really sick, but no worms. 4 days later, she feels even worse with severe abdominal pain. She goes to the doctor, and actually, it's confirmed that she does have a tapeworm. She likes to refer to it as a boy, even though tapeworms are hermaphrodites, and she chooses to name it Phineas. They're both happy that she's a mother now. Agnes wants to carry the worm forever, even though Zoe knows that's not possible. Eventually, the tapeworm is going to expel itself, I suppose you could say. And then Zoe apologizes for her previous actions, admitting that she did want to see how far Agnes would go, and Zoe wants to break up with her. Agnes wholeheartedly disagrees, saying that she wants to abandon her with her quote unquote child. Zoe says that Agnes needs help and that their contract has been voided. Agnes still lives by the contract, however, saying that she still sleeps naked with the AC on full blast and that she loves her child too much. She says later that the pain from the child is really getting bad. She passes the worm, saying that it has Zoe's eyes, saying she takes the child into the closet along with the apple peeler. She closes her eyes and wonders what she's done to deserve them today. As stated in the beginning, Agnes has died. So I guess it's safe to say that, yeah, she died in the closet with her child and the apple peeler, which, in my eyes, is a really tragic way to end the story. Pretty obvious themes of rebirth and exploitation throughout the entire book, as well as the cruelty of other people. Yeah, this book was pretty fucked up. I'm not gonna lie. It took me about I think I bought the book in June, and I didn't get around to fully completing it until a few days ago. So yeah, that was fucking something. I guess next, I don't know. I have another fucked up book too. I have Tender as the Flesh. I think that's a pretty long book. I might review that one next. Maybe in chunks. I have Horror Store too. I might read through that one. I think that one's me less fucked up than this one. Yeah, okay, I think that's it. Goodbye.